All right, it's officially 101. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the biannual California Ocean Litter Prevention Strategy webinar. Christy, Cahoe, and I are so thrilled for you to join us today. The current ocean litter prevention strategy, as a reminder for those or as a new introduction for those who may be joining us for the first time, was jointly developed by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Marine Debris Program, as well as the California Ocean Protection Council in 2018. And therefore, we co-facilitate the implementation and ongoing public report outs and sharing in webinars related to the ocean litter strategy. And so the ocean litter strategy, or in short, we refer to it as OLS, outlines explicit actions to prevent and reduce ocean litter in California. And we look forward to today's webinar to highlight ongoing actions and projects within the OLS community and to learn from this larger group. So with that, next slide, please. Again, just want to say thank you for those who are joining us today. I know a lot of folks are still entering in from the waiting room. So I know we had over 200 registered for today's event. So again, thank you for joining us. We anticipate folks to trickle in, throughout the 2.5-hour webinar. And we'll start today's webinar with a quick poll just to get a sense of who's in the room. And bear with me as we launch this. So we'll give folks time as people trickle in to please complete this poll. Includes the level of engagement that you've participated in these webinars or work group meetings before. Potential answers include, none, this is your very first time. Maybe you've attended 1 to 2, 3 to 4, or well over 5. Given this, the OLS has been in place since 2018 with these biannual webinars taking place a little more frequently beginning in 2020. As well as what sector you represent, again, just to get a sense of who's in the room, as well as where you're joining us from today.
Stop snickering, Christy. I see you.
And I will have a reminder to please remain on mute. We do not have folks automatically disabled in their mute and cameras, but we do ask that folks do remain on mute unless invited to speak, please. All right, getting ready to end the poll, but we have, I know sometimes when we end these, it doesn't automatically share with those who are participating in these webinars. So just to verbally report out, we have about 64% in the room today who's the very first time attending one of these webinars. So welcome, as well as 16%, another 7% have attended between 1 and 4, and 15% of you have attended over 5. So again, welcome, thank you for joining. The main sectors today are academia, industry, government at about 50%, as well as nonprofit at 29% of attendance, and other at 2%. That is one individual. We have folks joining today from the North Coast, north of Sonoma County, the San Francisco Bay Area, Sacramento area, Central Coast, Los Angeles, Southern California outside of Los Angeles, as well as another state outside of California and another country outside of the US. So the beauty of virtual meetings. Thank you, everyone. I had an option to share. So Christy, can you give me a verbal confirmation if you can see the poll results?
I can, but I also have host access, so I might be fortunate enough. So I might.
Sydney, would you mind verbally sharing whether you can see the results? Oh, and we see in the chat. Yes, you can. Thank you all. Thank you as we continue to navigate these virtual platforms. As well as we welcome everyone into the chat to go ahead and just introduce yourself to those actually in the room or physically, in this virtual space. Your name, your affiliation, and how you're celebrating Plastic Free July as an icebreaker for this afternoon. Please feel free to continue to think through the upcoming Plastic Free July. Again, your name, affiliation, and how you're celebrating Plastic Free July. And with that, I will go to the next slide, please. Just a couple of housekeeping notes for today. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the OPC website in about a couple of weeks. We will share that over the Ocean Litter Strategy listserv, Once that is live, as well as attendees, we do ask that you remain muted through the duration of today's webinar unless called upon, just to help with the flow and timing. But we do encourage everyone attending to please insert ideas, questions, any content that you want to share physically in the chat box throughout the webinar. We'll do our best to monitor the chat box, throughout the duration of quite a robust agenda and presentations, and we'll encourage our guest speakers to respond following the presentations, either by typing in the chat or by, if we have time, to actually verbally respond to questions. As for technology, if you're experiencing any issues on the Zoom platform, we do encourage you to please try leaving the Zoom platform and you can rejoin the meeting. Hopefully that may alleviate any technical bugs. And if your computer audio is bad, you may also choose to dial in using the phone number provided, or you may, depending on your internet connection, may disconnect any VPN to improve the connection. And lastly, feel free to network and dialogue in the chat box. We're here to support one another, ask questions, brainstorm ideas. And for those who haven't already, maybe just joining as you're trickling in, please do add your name, affiliation, and tell us one way that you're celebrating Plastic Free July in the coming month in the chat. Thank you. Next slide. All right, we're starting to see some ideas populating the chat. Thank you all. By way of introductions, my name is Caitlin Kalua. I'm the Water Quality Program Manager within the California Ocean Protection Council, which is a state cabinet level body within the California Natural Resources Agency. I lead on programs, policies, and research related to plastics, as well as other land-based pollution within OPC. And with that, I'll turn to our co-facilitator, Christy.
Thanks, Caitlin, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christy Kehoe, and I support the NOAA Marine Debris Program as our California Regional Coordinator. I've been honored to be in this position going on 2 years now, and really fortunate to work alongside all of you, as well as Caitlin, in this really wonderful community. I'm based in the Oakland, California area, but I support our projects and outreach across the state, as well as binationally with Mexico, and really love working on initiatives that go prevention, removal, response, research, monitoring, coordination, really a really holistic approach that we'll hear about today, and really trying to engage with as many diverse stakeholders. So I appreciate seeing some new and old names in the chat. So I'm really excited with that, and I look forward to connecting with you today and hopefully one-on-one in the future. So with that, Caitlin, I'm going to toss it back to you.
Fantastic. And with that, I'll request next slide. Just many, many thanks to our California Sea Grant Fellows who are joining us this summer, who are behind the scenes today, helping support the webinar, as well as the overall implementation of the Ocean Litter Strategy. This includes Kyra Wallace with the Delta Science Program, Taryn Kimmick with the California State Parks, as well as Sydney Rylam with the State Water Resources Control Board. So many thanks for you joining us this summer and throughout the year, quite frankly, with your year-long fellowships. And next slide. And of course, many thanks to you, the Ocean Litter Strategy community, for taking the time to join today's webinar. We understand that this is taking time from other pressing matters, pressing work. So thank you for joining us. It's a busy time of year, and we appreciate each of your work, to continue on the momentum of addressing plastic pollution in California. Next slide, please. And now, over the next 2+ hours, we're hoping to use this webinar, just kind of frame the expectations for today, is to provide updates on ocean litter strategy implementation, physical actions, physical projects, as well as monitoring progress in achieving the ocean litter strategy goals to reduce ocean litter in California, as well as strengthening community and fostering relationship building for those virtually attending, as well as learning about updates and information sharing from our community to promote networking across the state. Next slide, please. Today's webinar will include a series of guest presentations and speakers, beginning with an overview of the progress made to date, as well as focused presentation and discussion centered on diversity, equity, and inclusion, building from a lot of conversations that have taken place since 2020, which also includes a new project supported by California Sea Grant to advance diversity and perspectives within the Ocean Litter Strategy community. So we're very excited to introduce that project, followed by federal, state, and policy updates with a series of guest presentations. Next slide, please. And now guidelines for those attending. As a reminder for today's discussion, please do be mindful and open to diversity of perspectives and viewpoints within this very broad and vast community. Please keep comments constructive to the workshop's objectives, as well as being respectful to community members who may have Again, different perspectives, and please do so without making disparaging remarks towards any sector, organization, or individual. And overarching reminder, we're not here to point the finger, but we are here to work together. And in that spirit of collaboration, I'll now pass off to Christy.
Thanks, Caitlin. Next slide, please. So I'll now briefly cover the Ocean Litter Strategy, or otherwise the OLS, and highlighting our history and progress made to date, with inclusion of hearing from our wonderful work group leads in just a few minutes. Next slide, please. So as a brief background, the Ocean Litter Strategy was co-developed in 2018 through a community-driven approach. This was an all-hands-on-deck approach where, the Marine Debris Program, OPC, as well as California Secret helped facilitate it, but it certainly was led by partners. As you can see here as an example, our plan is 64 actions, really highlighting statewide priorities of land-based litter, including microplastics and microfibers, as well as ocean-based fishing gear and aquaculture gear. And pictured here, again, is the strategy and structure. And I really want to emphasize that this was really the partners you'll see here are really leading and driving this forward, as well as those in attendance today. So we're looking forward to hearing for some of these updates. Next slide, please. So our 6 stakeholder goal areas are listed here, and they include source reduction through mandates and incentives, source reduction through production, design, and management, and our other goal areas focused on waste management, research, behavior change and education, and lastly, ocean-based debris prevention and cleanup. Again, through this approach, we try to aim as holistically and as inclusive as possible to really solve this issue. Next slide, please. And I will continue to keep echoing it. I really want to emphasize that nothing could happen on this issue without this incredible community that we developed. This includes the 50 partners that signed up originally, but as well as partners and organizations that have been added to the plan. We also have a community of about 250 as part of our mailing list to share information. And really that includes environmentally focused nonprofits, state agencies, universities focused on research, aquariums engaging in outreach, stormwater professionals, really a diverse sector. And really wanted to highlight that ownership of the Ocean Litter Strategy and these actions really belong to this wider California community. So again, really thanks to this passion and dedication of this community. Next slide, please. So over the last 4 years, our OLS partners have met together regularly, sharing ideas, providing updates on actions through many different types of engagement. This includes webinars such as today, workshop, goal-based work group calls that we'll get to in just a second, as well as listservs. And we really view this as really helpful engagement for opportunities just for tracking the overall strategy, as well as remaining up to date. And so if you give me 1 second, I am going to add the mailing list into the chat. And something you will notice throughout the course of today is Caitlin and I will be going back and forth as far as just sending all the links that we have, but that will also be available in our presentation. So the first link I just added in there is our mailing list if you're not otherwise signed up. Next slide, please. In addition to that, here's a snapshot of our implementation tracker. So this is on a public-facing Google site that is hosted by NOAA. And we continually update this spreadsheet throughout the engagement. And this document is available to partners, attendings of this call, as well as the public. And so if you're interested to learn more of areas to get engaged or just learn kind of the information we have available, you'll see the links that I just shared in the chat as well. Next slide, please. So moving on to that progress over time, this graph really shows kind of the status of those 64 actions over the year-to-year breakdown, with the progress in blue, completed in red, and not yet reported in yellow. So I want to just thanks to those on the call that have been a part of this journey with us. As you can see, we're kind of getting to where we're more increasing our completed and more progress. So that's kind of an exciting sign to see what we'll be doing over the next year or so. Next slide, please. All right, so delving into it a little bit, approximately 10% of our actions have been marked as completed. Currently, there's about 69% or over 40 actions that are in progress or actively being pursued. And I also want to make a note here as a lesson learned for us that, a lot of the action language that was drafted in the strategy, the majority of these actions will always be ongoing, such as education, outreach. And so that's kind of a note for how we developed the language of the plan. But kind of moving on from that as well, we also have actions that don't have any progress in analyzing maybe where that issue is, or maybe there's barriers there. Next slide, please. All right, so that was a lot of me going over this quickly, and I'm really excited today to invite our various work group goal leads who take volunteer and take time to help us coordinate and plan biannual goal work groups, as well as attend to these for report out. So today we'll be hearing from Nate Pelskar from California Product Stewardship Council. I'm speaking on goals 1 and 2. Goal 3, focused on waste management interception, is co-led by Erica Yelensky and Jenny Stevenson from the EPA Region 3, and we'll be hearing from Jenny today. I'll be presenting on behalf of Goal 4 research, which I work in conjunction with Caitlin and the Ocean Protection Council. Goal 5, we'll be hearing about behavior change from Vicki Patterson of Stand Up to Trash. And last and certainly not least, we'll hear from Clean Ocean International, Amelia Lab, as she co-leads the Goal 6 work group. So I'm going to invite each of these work group leads to unmute themselves, and I ask them to keep a very short and sweet 2 minutes, around 2 minutes or so, just kind of updates of how their recent discussions went. So with that, I am going to ask we move to the next slide, and then I'm going to invite Nate, if you want to unmute and kind of share what's happening here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Christy. Great to be here today. Always great to join these webinars and in this group, all the wonderful things that you do. And it's good to see so many supporters of CPSC in attendance. Nate Pelskar with the California Product Stewardship Council, aka CPSC. We specialize in source reduction. That's why we're so excited to work on these 2 specific goals. And in regards to these 2 goals, which I'll be combining into one really, CPSC has been a very busy bee, working tirelessly to reduce the sources of waste in California, specifically those that impact our waterways and our coasts. At CPSC, what we do is we implement rules. We do mostly ordinances and statewide laws that restrict manufacturers' ability to produce wasteful products. And we force them to take those products back at the product's end of life. That's really our specialty, and that's what we advocate for. It's called extended producer responsibility and product stewardship. From our perspective, going to the source, going to those manufacturers, forcing them to take their products back really is the most effective means of source reduction. As Christy mentioned earlier, these activities really, our advocacy for source reduction are ongoing. And we've been very, very busy, specifically in the areas of ordinances and statewide law, to work towards source reduction. I'll have more information on my lengthier update later. I'm not sure if you'd like me to go into more detail now or later. I think I'll keep it short now. Thank you, Christy.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate you. All right, let's move on to our next goal, Goal 3, waste management. And I invite Jenny from EPA Region 9 to unmute themselves.
Hi, Jenny Stevenson with EPA Region 9. My pronouns are she, her. And as Christy mentioned, I co-lead this work group with Erica Yelensky. So we have the water division and our land division within EPA. And we've really appreciated the engagement of this work group, which is focused on improving waste management and interception of litter on land before it reaches the ocean. At our last meeting, we had Elisa Wilfong with the City of Hayward Water Pollution Source Control give a presentation on the many variety of trash capture devices that they have, along with an update from Tiffany Chang with Los Angeles County Public Works on the Ballona Creek Trash Interceptor Project. And together they were very informative and engaging, and really focused on litter and trash that is already in the waterways and stormwater drains and creeks, and how that gets captured and pulled out. And so usually it's a nice group looking both kind of more downstream of that interception, but then also looking at what we can do upstream as well, and improving the management of litter and trash so it doesn't end up there in the first place. So that's it.
Thanks, Jenny. Really appreciate you and Erica and your help for moving that goal forward. So I'll actually be speaking to Goal 4 research on behalf of Caitlin and Ocean Protection Council and myself. And this goal aims to conduct and communicate research on existing and emerging issues related to land-based ocean litter. So during our last work group meeting, which was in February 2023, we had one of my wonderful alumni fellows, Tanya Torres from California Sea Grant Now, as well as Caitlin Kalua from Ocean Protection Council, really discuss the latest opportunities happening across the state in research and particularly in microplastics. So they led a really exciting discussion on 2023 microplastic research program, a request for proposals, highlighting the priorities that include a call for improved understanding of aquatic microplastic contamination sources, and a second call for microplastic removal efficiency of low impact development. And so this process is still ongoing. And I know that in the future, OPC and Sea Grant will be providing updates. In addition to that conversation, I also highlighted some updates on the marine debris program side, specifically for our Save Our Seas 2.0 Act and our partnership with EPA and Materievolve on drafting of a microfiber pollution to Congress as part of the Save Our Seas 2.0 Act. This is still ongoing and being reviewed, but aiming to have that shared to our group hopefully later this year. In addition to that, I'm excited to host our next August work group. It'll be likely Tuesday, August 29th, but we'll make sure to share that in our Ocean Litter Strategy mailing list as well. All right, with that, I'm going to now invite Goal 5, Vicki, to please unmute yourself and share some highlights from the last engagement.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today, and nice to see so many familiar faces and see new ones as well. I'll be presenting on the Goal 5 behavior change and by educating and engaging communities and individuals to reduce ocean litter. So during our last work group meeting on March 15th, we had speakers from across the country, regionally, as well as the local level. We had the Mid-Atlantic Regional Council for the Oceans on their cross-state approach to address intentional balloon releases and partnerships with aquariums. Marcos Avalon Ballstrom shared how agency worked and established several topic-specific and multi-agency work groups to identify and pursue specific activities that advance 4 shared regional priorities. The priority is where the Marine Debris Working Group sits. Its goal is to improve the quality of coastal waterways and oceans through reduction and prevention of marine debris and litter. They provide the overview of community-based social marketing project with NOAA Marine Debris Program to prevent intentional balloon releases and identify key messaging which focuses on positive and alternatives. They also sent a nice email campaign for Mother's Day with the balloon release, which was great to send that out. We also had the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, Sean Hastings, and the University of Southern California, Meg DeCote, shared regional work to address balloon litter and product designs in Southern California, including capstone project with local universities, high schools, and the private sector, as well as the Aquarium of the Pacific at Long Beach. Cassandra Davies provided an update on the trash, which is taking responsibility and saving habitats. Trash provides a fun and safe opportunity for volunteers to be empowered in trash cleanups, reducing and preventing trash in the ocean, and ensuring a clean environment for everyone to enjoy. Each presenter highlighted the importance of behavior change and community engagement. This one is my favorite goal, and we'll be having another work group meeting on August 21st, and I invite you all to attend. We give a lot of great education and how we can change behavior so we can meet all these goals. So I'll take it to Goal 6.
Thank you, Vicki. Amelia, if you want to unmute yourself now, welcome.
Thanks, Christy. My name is Amelia, and I'll be speaking on Goal 6, which is focused on reducing the sources of ocean-based debris and maximizing the efficiency of ocean-based debris cleanup. In our last work group meeting in March of this year, we invited speakers from academic and nonprofit organizations to highlight their efforts in addressing marine debris. Speakers included Kirsten Gilardi from UC Davis, who shared information on the California lost fishing gear recovery project's 15+ years of retrieval data, along with a presentation update from the 7th International Marine Debris Conference, which featured a GSAMP report on the relative contributions of sea-based industries and activities to global ocean plastic burden, and the analysis and impacts of plastic use and management. We also had Paddle Out Plastics, Eva Chikoria, who shared the organization's mission on ocean-based debris, which includes activities to remove plastic waste from waters, provide data in support of related citizen science, educating the public about plastic waste, including through art, and supporting change in plastic use and production. One highlight mentioned in Paddle Out Plastics presentation was the removal of over 210,000 pieces of debris for a total of 3 3/4 tons since they began 4 years ago. It was super exciting. And they also shared this data with local officials to better shape the policy management, better shape policy management and enforcement. We covered a lot in 2 hours. We had great discussions, and we look forward to our August work group meetings. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Christy.
Thanks, Amelia. Next slide. So I just want to thank the work group leads as well for leading discussions and really open anybody on this call. If there's an interest area, if you're interested in presenting your work, please reach out to Caitlin and I. We're always excited to learn more. And I also just want to emphasize that all of those presentations and notes are available on our shared public Google site hosted by NOAA. And so I will add that into the chat too. I did see a comment asking about if the chat will be saved. Caitlin, I will be sure to include all the links we discussed in addition to our presentation in these Google folders that you see here. And so we'll be sure to share that with everybody. With that, next slide, is there any, pausing here for a second, is there any questions for any of the working group leads or anything that you'd like clarification on? If you want, please feel free to add that into the chat now, and we'll try to get to it. All right. I'm not seeing anything and keeping an eye on time. I think let's keep on rolling through this, and I'm gonna happy to be introducing our next section while I have the mic at the moment. And so I'm honored to be especially presenting this during the wonderful month of Pride and Ocean Month. As we know, marine debris impacts all communities across the United States and globe, but significantly impacts those communities that are overburdened by pollution and those dealing with systematic issues of economic and environmental strife. So this passion to address the issue on the macro scale is something that the international community, national and statewide and local, is all really taking to heart. And so this next session that we'll be discussing is tied to equity, diversity, and inclusion and how that relates to all of those factors very briefly. And I'll say that, you know, this speaks to me personally as a Cuban American. I'm really excited to have these conversations and really proud that we're able to move this forward. So with that, I'm going to kick us off first, highlighting at the high level of the international and national, and then I'll kick it off to Caitlin, who's going to bring us into the States. So with that, if you wouldn't mind the next slide. All right, and so we begin or continue the sharing of many, many links, but I wanted to kind of give us a snapshot on kind of where we're looking at. And so here is just a few of many, many initiatives happening tied to this issue. Again, I apologize for the amount of links here, but hopefully this is useful government links for you, but really wanted to taking a step out and just kind of saying that this is certainly a conversation and happening in the international and UN space. For example, in 2021, there was a really great report developed by the UN in conjunction with a lot of amazing groups, many of which in California, to really explore the injustices brought by plastic waste and plastic pollution, and examines how vulnerable communities are disproportionately and negatively affected. This was a really informative report and very relevant for California. But as we zoom a little bit into just for, the United States of America, I'm honored to share that the Biden-Harris administration has really been hard at work on bipartisan efforts, as well as executive orders to really further this. So this includes within the days of office, Biden putting forth the Justice 40 initiative. So really the first time in our nation's history where the federal government has made a goal that 40% of all overall benefits of certain federal investments flow into disadvantaged communities that are marginalized. For example, other executive bills includes Executive Order 13985, advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through federal government. This is dedication to put forth funding and efforts for inclusion across all federal agencies. So then kind of going in another layer under federal agencies themselves and what NOAA under the Department of Commerce, they've really emphasized this to be included in planning efforts, really trying to take ambitious goals to leading to federal investment, to leading to support in these communities, and the spectrum of what that could be. And so I'm even more enthused to share that, within NOAA and within my program at the Marine Debris Program, this is of the utmost priority. This is something that we take critical to our mission of just not writing this down, but justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility being a part of all the work that we do. So I think there's a lot of work that we have done, but certainly a lot of room for improvement and a lot of more going on than just this slide. So again, this is kind of just a teaser of more information happening on the high level. Next slide, please. And while I'm on this, I did want to share some really exciting news. As of last Thursday, kind of breaking as of Ocean Day, the Biden-Harris administration's Council on the Environmental Quality, so otherwise known as CEQ, and the Office of Science, Technology, and Policy, on behalf of the Ocean Policy Committee, has a request for input from all interested stakeholders who want to be a part of developing the ocean justice strategy. So this is RFI is currently open and they're seeking public input on what the vision of the goals would be, what are the priorities, and you'll note here, here is when the responses are due. I'll be sure to share any other opportunities through our mailing list, but wanted to flag it for you that this is just something that was in the news as of a few days ago and had to add a slide. So there's a lot in motion here. And even more so on the state level. So on that end, I'm going to hand it over to you, Caitlin, to share some other exciting news.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Christy. Transitioning to California, just as a brief way of background, in California, environmental justice is actually statutorily defined as the fair treatment of people of all races, cultures, and income with respect to the actual physical development, adoption, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. The concept behind the term is that all people, regardless of their race, color, income, etc., are able to enjoy equally high levels of environmental protection. Next slide, please. Statewide, there are a number of executive orders that have been issued on this topic. This is certainly non-exhaustive, but just a couple to highlight. Includes N1622, which requires state agencies and departments to update their strategic plans to advance equity and to respond to disparities within the organization's mission to then address and advance equity. And related but separate, the state has also stated its commitment over the past 10 years, over 10 years ago, to strengthening government-to-government relationships with tribes, including through consultation. Meanwhile, not listed here, there have been recent bills within the legislature that have included AB 923 in 2021, which requires the development of government-to-government consultation training within state agencies, as well as encouraging agencies to seek meaningful input on policies, programs, and projects that may impact tribes. As another example, AB 2108 in 2002 was adopted, which requires the State Water Resources Control Board and regional water boards to conduct outreach and identify issues of environmental justice as early as possible into the planning, policy, and permitting decisions. There are a number of resources available regarding state efforts to improve meaningful engagement and equity in state decision-making, which includes the Strategic Growth Council, Racial Equity Hub. California Natural Resources Agency has a full list of department-specific environmental justice and equity policies, as well as the State Water Board Racial Equity webpage. Examples will be provided in the chat momentarily. Next slide, please. Let's see. And apologies, I'm going to re-enter these links. They didn't completely translate into the Zoom, but these will also be shared in an email following today's webinar. OPC adopted its first equity plan in fall of this last year, which recognizes OPC's work must be inclusive and reflect diversity of perspectives and needs of California's communities. The plan is designed to embed equity into all OPC programs by prioritizing early and meaningful community engagement in projects, pursuing intentional investments, and advancing diversity, inclusion, and a variety of perspectives and expertise in scientific research design. Please note that this equity plan is separate but complementary to OPC's tribal engagement strategy, both of which will be shared either throughout this webinar in the chat once I have that feature enabled for myself or following today's webinar. Next slide, please. Recent projects that advance the ocean litter strategy and OPC's plastic program, that have embedded equity into that physical project design and early on in the project design have included explicit criteria to incorporate equity into competitive research, such as providing mentorship or early career opportunities and/or engaging with impacted communities to inform a research design where applicable. OPC is also in the early stages of developing a statewide plastics is both large plastic and microplastic monitoring plan. Again, very early stages, but this will include robust prioritized engagement and monitoring in vulnerable areas. And we look forward to sharing more information on this in November during this Ocean Litter Strategy webinar. As well as OPC has approved funding to support the Los Angeles County Single-Use Plastic Reduction Ordinance, which was developed through multiple phases of stakeholder engagement and included impacted small businesses and restaurants. And finally, last but not least, is a new federally funded project in which OPC is partnering with California Sea Grant to support both OPC and NOAA to advance equity in the ocean litter strategy and to help inform marine debris projects by conducting a targeted community needs assessment to inform future coordinated investments by both federal, state, and private funding entities. Next slide, please. So to tee up this new project, I want to take a step back to 2020, in which this community received a presentation, a focus guest presentation by Better World Group, which focused on developing and implementing equitable policies and actions related to plastic pollution, essentially to help inform both potential state approaches and engagement towards designing marine debris and plastic pollution projects, but also to help inform this community in thinking through your own actions and projects. By way of background, this graphic was shown during the webinar to challenge the assumption that providing the same assistance in both communities shown on the screen would allow both then to thrive equally well. When in reality, this results in inequitable outcomes, given the community on the left appears to be in need of basic resources, infrastructure, while the community on the right has far more established resources. Next slide, please. Meanwhile, under an equity framework, both towns receive resources based on their actual need. Next slide, please. Advancing equity and striving for these actual equitable outcomes requires early community engagement to identify communities' needs, to inform a project, and then to actually measure the project outcomes. Principles for meaningful community engagement include listening, which involves working to shift power to communities by engaging community expertise and learning what are an individual's community's visions for their future, what are their wants, their needs, their priorities, as well as what do the community members see as the impacts and issues affecting them. Meaningful engagement that acknowledges past harms or injustices, which might include past exclusion from decision-making, as well as managing expectations to let participants know of any non-negotiables within a project or research scope, as well as clearly describing roles and responsibilities, including any financial time constraints of the project, as well as a number of other recommendations to help inform community engagement that we do hope others can learn from and incorporate into your own projects as well. Next slide, please. Better World Group had also outlined a stepwise process for better incorporating equity into project design, and critically emphasizing that equity should not be thought of as a lens, but core to all programs, policies, and budget considerations. And since this time, this is where OPC has taken a hard look to embed equity into all of its programs, but also, of course, into our plastic pollution investments and projects. And as outlined here, this includes considering how is equity embedded into an existing strategy or framework. For example, identifying which communities are impacted or could be benefit from a certain or forthcoming program or policy. Identifying targeted funding as far as does a program or funding have dedicated set-asides for vulnerable communities, or identifying what are the barriers, either legal or programmatic, to providing that targeted funding. Building equity into the process through engagement, such as identifying and creating a process to collaborate with vulnerable communities that that engages and empowers them in a meaningful way, but also identifies a community's decision-making role that is clearly defined and ensures that community representatives are included in the decision-making throughout the process. Also ensuring equitable outcomes, and finally measuring and analyzing equity to measure actual outcomes of a specific policy or program, including how this will be communicated to the communities and stakeholders, both through the program and policy process, and as well as reporting the outcomes of the project. And so with that, this is the Tee Up, our very new, exciting project within California Sea Grant that helps us place these recommendations into action in the context of the ocean litter strategy. So thank you for your time. And with that, I'm going to transition to the next slide, please. Wonderful. And I see, let's see, is that Christy? Christy, you populated the chat. Would you mind adding the community engagement principles as well into the chat? Because I did, for the sake of time, did not walk through all key principles, but it's a wonderful resource for others looking to improve community engagement. Thank you. And with that, I'm transitioning to the California Sea Grant new project. It's a new federally funded project to advance equity in marine debris solutions through our existing California ocean litter strategy. Unfortunately, Tanya Torres was unable to join us this morning due to a family emergency, or this afternoon, excuse me. But as a co-project partner, I'm more than happy to share these slides on Tanya's behalf. Next slide, please. So with funding from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, National Sea Grant selected California Sea Grant as I walk through this, selected California Sea Grant for this project to advance equity in the ocean litter strategy. Building from the funding opportunity aimed to build marine debris community coalitions and specifically target underserved or underrepresented communities within either emerging, needed, or existing communities and coalitions. And since the ocean litter strategy community exists, this is a wonderful opportunity to take the lessons learned from ongoing conversations, dialogue, training regarding stakeholder potential needs, or quite frankly, identifying those who are missing from these webinars and from our ongoing engagements within the strategy. And so,
apologies.
Yes.
I see that Teresa from California Sea Grant's here too and offered to join in too.
Oh, wonderful.
Teresa. Yeah, Teresa, not to
I
put
mean,
you on the spot.
up to you. I if you want to keep going, or I'm happy to jump in. If not, that Tanya was going to do this, so I can answer.
This is great. Am I freezing?
To take a little bit. Or is that?
I see it going in and out in a second.
Christy, am I freezing, or is that Teresa?
It might be Teresa, so I might say we continue moving forward with it, and then with Teresa, we'll have her on backup for the chat. So I'm sorry, Teresa, I'm going to have you go back on mute now.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Erica. Wonderful. Well, with that, I'll walk through Tanya's presentation, and Teresa, we're going to have a bit of a dialogue for everyone here. So we'll take a step back. Teresa can take the reins, and we'll walk through the facilitated dialogue. So back last June, we I believe is led by Christy and Tanya, actually did a SWOT analysis of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats within the ocean litter strategy, trying to identify essentially what are the strengths and what weaknesses as far as within the actual implementation, the actions, and the overall community, opportunities and threats regarding opportunities as well as barriers to addressing the overall issues of ocean litter in California. And also looking at what sectors and perspectives are missing and potential barriers. And so that did include a brief identification of lack of participation from the private sector, specific industries, potentially community-based organizations. There are a number of NGOs and others in the environmental sector that participate, but not necessarily within the environmental justice community, as well as identified, even for those who are participating, there's barriers regarding funding and organizational capacity to physically engage, attend, as well as implement projects and actions to advance the ocean litter strategy. So with that, we're hoping to build from these, again, these ongoing conversations, these ongoing engagements to inform this next stage of this project. So next slide, please. So through the California Sea Grant Project, again, this is it's brand new, only launched within the last month. And so we are at the very beginning stages, and we're thrilled to introduce this to everyone here. And that a goal of this project is to inform and conduct a pilot or case study, likely targeting Los Angeles, to help build and expand upon efforts already in this very large populous region that we hope then can be scaled and extended to other locations and regions that are identified as either a need for addressing plastic pollution or maybe are missing from engagement, et cetera. So we're hoping to begin with Los Angeles and scale from there. This would include the very beginning stages of a stakeholder gap analysis that's being conducted, looking at who's engaged in the development of the ocean litter strategy in 2018, and then the ongoing actions and these webinars, meetings, and again, completed projects through the life of the strategy. And so to identify sectors, regions, perspectives that are most engaged, and maybe those that are maybe more meaningfully engaged to a higher degree, maybe others that stop in, stop out, as well as those that are entirely missing. And so when we are looking at the diversity, we are looking at geographic diversity, sector diversity. For example, could be restaurants or technological innovators, et cetera, that we be missing within this community, as well as then upstanding a community advisory group to help pilot a targeted community needs, community needs assessment that can then, for the second objective, inform coordinated investments regarding marine debris projects. Next slide, please. And as of right now, California Sea Grant has begun conducting its stakeholder gap analysis, as well as task 3, designing and implementing a community needs assessment and outreach plan. And to that end, we're hoping to use this morning, again, to introduce this project, but also gain some data and some information from this group. Next slide, please. So the beginning stage is assessing who's missing by sector and geography, which will help provide a starting point for the project to help focus efforts, including who then to invite to a community advisory group, and as well as then forming the physical priority areas for the community needs assessment. And today we're hoping to include you in the launch of this first goal. And to initiate this project, the project team will be evaluating existing participation within the existing ocean litter strategy community, including who's attended the biannual webinars, work group meetings, assessing and identifying which sectors, which regions are most engaged, which may be missing, and helping inform, again, this community needs assessment and providing insight on as far as where to focus our efforts. Next slide, please. This includes, again, a targeted potential community needs assessment within the Los Angeles region to help target and expand upon existing efforts within Los Angeles. There's a lot happening both in trash interception. There's existing regulatory requirements that don't necessarily exist in other regions of the state regarding trash TMDLs. There are source reduction policies on the local level being implemented. And at the same time, there are these overlapping areas that may be more vulnerable as far as having known high trash generation areas, as well as vulnerable communities, either socially, economically, et cetera, as identified in Cal EnviroScream, that may help inform a targeted needs assessment and analysis. Next slide, please. And so as a brief note, and I don't know if Teresa is available, we'll transition briefly if she's unfrozen. So the stakeholder gap analysis is intended to be completed and reported out by the next Ocean Litter Strategy webinar in November, as well as the creation of a community advisory group. But at this stage, we're hoping to open it up to this group. So this could be entered into the chat. Folks can raise your hands. But what sectors or perspectives for those who have attended these in the past, or based on what you've seen today, appear to be missing from the Ocean Litter Strategy community? It could be restaurants, industry innovators, health perspectives, based on your experience through the Ocean Litter Strategy, or based on what you see today.
Caitlin, I'll jump in to share that certainly we're hoping to find feedback today as kind of a launching out point, but there will be opportunities to provide feedback through this after this webinar, as well as just communication with Tanya as well. So if you're not, if none comes to mind at this moment, we really do encourage you to please keep reach out to us.
Great. And with
And I'll
that,
just throw it, if you're oh, sorry. Tell me if I'm freezing and I'll just go silent again. If you're thinking of, think about particular industries. So if there's commercial fishing or recreational fishing, or not to pick on them, but we'll talk more in a bit about farming. We just got a project going with the agricultural industries. Something like that crosses your mind could help us and inform what we're doing.
wonderful. And with that, I think we'll go to the next slide where there's two other prompts. And again, just sharing what we're evaluating at this stage of the project, keeping in mind that the goal of this project is to help inform not only investments, but ongoing implementation of the existing Ocean Litter Strategy, but also as we're looking beyond 2024. Our current strategy is from 2018 to 2024. We're beginning to look at what does 2024 look like for the strategy, as well as ongoing efforts, ongoing actions beyond 2024. And so this is where there's a huge opportunity, wonderful opportunity to increase the diversity of perspectives, industries, et cetera, that are engaged in implementing and addressing ocean litter. And so with that, for helping, now for Los Angeles specific, knowing there's a lot of potential folks here that are attending that may be based in the Los Angeles area or have a lot of experience within Los Angeles, we are curious what criteria are critical to include when assessing a site, selecting a site location. This could include Cal EnviroScreen, high trash generation areas, or 303D listed impaired water bodies, what specific local policies may exist, population density, and other criterion, as well as those who are familiar with the Los Angeles region. Are there specific geographic locations, water bodies, creeks, or communities that may require a little more focus, a little more energy and effort? And so with that, these are the very initial prompts. We're more than happy to follow up with this larger community, both through the listserv. We'll be engaging throughout this project, either through surveys and questionnaires, of course, using the existing listserv and other opportunities, work group, potential meetings, et cetera, to help address some of these questions, as well as others that arise as this project is just emerging. With that, Teresa, I don't know if you're still on, but if there's anything more you'd like to add or you have additional requests from this group. Teresa is a co-PI on this project, and we're so grateful for her time.
Hi, no, this is great. Like Caitlin said, any insights for LA, and we're also partnering with the USC Sea Grant. So our state has 2 Sea Grant programs, and one is USC, and they focus on the Los Angeles area. So, but we still welcome this input.
Caitlin, I can jump in. I'm monitoring the chat. I see Jenny's really added a really valuable comment here about, and something that I think you and me have heard and really kind of thought about just kind of how we want to engage on the plan and what type of engagement, who is at the table, who isn't at, all those conversations I think are at the top of mind. And so really appreciate Jenny, you flagging that and highlighting it, because I think that was one of the reasons that, driving behind this type of a project, and trying to, excited to learn more through the next 2 years.
And just to
Wonderful.
flag the chat, Trina had a great comment about schools. And so that's something we can reach out to, just with the trash associated with schools. I think we've all noticed that. And then Ella had a point about reaching out and finding out community needs. And Ella, that's absolutely our approach, especially with our partner at USCC Grant is a social scientist too, which is extra helpful. So, but we just need to know where to begin, right? We have some idea, but wanted to hear from all of you.
And to build upon that, Ella, so your comment also includes something as finding the primary language and starting with that as a pivot and as an identified need, and potentially providing food or childcare to help different areas participate. Thank you so much. Those are, I think, the approaches that are being considered in the community needs assessment, both when it comes, once a specific community is identified, making sure that multi-language or culturally relevant materials are presented, but then also how to provide compensation for those who are engaging in this deeper level, attending meetings, et cetera. And that could be through childcare, other resources to help make these meetings more accessible, or it could be a virtual format, or the timing of meetings, whether it be during a workday or in the evenings, et cetera. So thank you for that comment. With that, I think we'll go to the next slide as far as opening the floor to any questions. So grateful to have Teresa join to potentially answer questions. Please do feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to come off mute or to enter a question in the chat.
Thank you, Caitlin. So Tapa says, introducing plastic recycling into schools is an excellent idea. It'll address future population as well. Yeah, the schools would be a great place. Thank you.
Well, wonderful. With that, again, we're happy to take questions. Continuing offline, feel free to contact Tanya. Her email is listed here, as well as Teresa, again, as co-PI on this project, as well as Amalia at USCC Grant. And please do direct questions directly to them following this. And with that, I'm more than happy to hand it off to Christy to transition to our federal announcements.
Thanks,
And
Caitlin.
Trina did ask how to raise a hand, so maybe that's not enabled, I wonder. So that, Trina, are you able to come off mute? Would you like to answer a question, ask a question?
Hi. Yeah, usually there's an option where it says that you can raise your hand. I don't see it at the moment. I did press it earlier. I wasn't sure if it was showing or not. But if you have time,
Chris, you would as well. Please, Trina, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're totally fine. So super quick, well, introduction. Hey, everyone. I'm a recent graduate from Cal State Fullerton, and I've been developing methods to monitor marine debris in the Rocky Intertidal Zone, which is part of some of the areas on the maps that you highlighted as well. So I don't know if this is exactly the space to bring that up, or if that's something further down the line, but I just want to throw that out there that I'm trying to spread the word, that I was able to create those methods that didn't exist prior. And it might be super helpful part of the puzzle to really understand exactly what's going on in the realm of marine debris, how much is out there, what kind of stuff is out there. So I did it on a local basis, but it could be applied to anywhere. And I was just curious if that would be something of interest for better understanding exactly what's going on in our communities, and that I'm here and available. So just wanted to throw that out there.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Trina. That is one thing at OPC we are looking at what methods, standardized methods for measuring, of course, for plastic and larger marine debris, larger scope, of course. And just thank you so much. If you have more information to share either in the chat or offline, would love to learn more. If
Sure,
there's
sounds
a
good.
lab or project webpage, would love it. Thank you.
I did put my Instagram in the chat at the very beginning, but I can send stuff again if it got kind of lost. But I have an Instagram that you can reference, and I can also include my email for more information. Okay, thank you.
With that, we had Chris Hewitt with State Lands Commission. I don't know, Chris, if you're just experimenting with the raise hand reaction.
It works, sorry. It
Thank
works.
you for testing.
Yeah, testing sat.
It was more of a wave.
Yeah, did you see that? That was pretty cool, huh? Okay. No, I'm good. Thanks, Caitlin. Thanks, Christy.
Oh, great.
There is one question in the chat from Robin Lee. I don't know if Robin would like to ask it, or I can read it if that's the case.
Yeah, let's read this. So Robin shares from what they understand, recycling is very inefficient, with most plastic going to landfill or a lot that ending up in the ocean. What's a good way to limit single-use plastics or one-use plastics, including containers and packaging? And so that is one, Robin, highly recommend looking to our goal 1 and 2 or policy work group leads, where they are looking at source reduction policies and approaches. I think you'll be very interested in hearing on the state agency updates. We have a guest presentation by Zoe Heller with CalRecycle to discuss new source reduction requirements in California. So that is one possible solution and strategy, is physically reducing the source of that pollution type. But thank you for your question, as well as Sable has keeping in mind technological barriers as when surveying for needs. I'm not sure if it's already being included in surveying disadvantaged communities, but can be helpful to have in-person conversations. For example, this can be more accessible for many members of, let's say, houseless or those that are experiencing homelessness. So thank you for the comment, Sable.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Caitlin, in the interest of time, I might just jump into our next session, but really encourage those to use the chat feature. And again, this is the first of many conversations and opportunities. And I think I'll speak for behalf of that team. We're just really excited, and I'm honored to support the project as well. So with that, we're now going to move into our next session, really looking at federal agency updates. You'll first continue to hear from me. I'll be providing a few slides, and then I'm honored to share it with my EPA Region 9 colleague, Jenny Stevenson, who will provide some other really exciting updates. So with that, if we move on to the next slide, please. So again, I'm going to be focusing on the NOAA Marine Debris Program. We last presented at the Ocean Litter Strategy webinar in November 2022. And since then, there's been some really exciting initiatives across NOAA, across our NOAA divisions, and especially funding announcements in particular, where I'll focus today in areas for engagement that I'm just beyond excited to finally be able to share publicly. Next slide, please. But before we do that, just kind of a quick recap again, that the Marine Debris Program, we were established in 2006 as a federal lead to address marine debris. So our mission is to investigate and prevent the adverse impacts of marine debris. And so you'll see the federal definition here, but really in short is any solid human-made material that's in the coastal, marine, and Great Lakes environment that should not be there. And my team, we work with anything on the small scale, researching microfibers, preventing single-use plastics, removing derelict fishing gear, to large-scale vessels, and everything in between. And so I'm excited to kind of share where that work aligns with the ocean litter community today. Next slide. So here's a snapshot of our currently funded regional partners. I just want to thank those that may be in attendance here, or for the I see a note here with first-time attendees acronyms. Thank you, Robin. So here, I'll take that to note too, just currently with regional marine debris program partnerships. Want to highlight a few of those pictured here today that are working on research, prevention, and removal along California, as well as across Mexico, funded through various mechanisms. And I want to thank our latest partnership that I'll highlight in just a few slides, but really excited to be a part of this community. These are the folks that are doing the amazing on-the-ground frontlines work. Next slide, please. All right, so funding. I am beyond excited to really highlight that there's a bunch of really amazing initiatives being put forth by the Biden-Harris administration. So, for example, last week, the United States Department of Commerce unveiled a $2.6 billion framework to invest in coastal resilience through the Inflation Reduction Act, or commonly referred to IRA. So I might mention IRA, and I'll be referencing the Inflation Reduction Act. So as part of this, the president's Investing in America agenda, this initiative will support communities and people on the front lines of climate change, dedicating nearly $400 million specifically for tribal priorities and benefiting coastal and Great Lakes community nationwide. Additional investments will improve weather and climate data and services in support of the America the Beautiful initiative. This will also help with NOAA's fleet of research airplanes and ships used to study and collect atmospheric administration. And really, this is a historic $2.6 billion, I'll echo that again, investment in climate resilience and coastal communities that will help ensure that our communities are here in the future. Next slide, please. All right, so I will also do my best to tag the links as I speak. So let me add these in. I see a celebration. Yes, it is a celebration, Trina. And so in addition to what I just mentioned, there's even additional funding excitement that on Earth Day of 2023, the Biden-Harris administration had recommended $562 million in funding investments in nearly 150 projects across the country in Great Lakes and territories to make the communities and our economy more resilient to climate change. And so this really reflects what we see at the White House and federal level as a commitment to have a climate-ready coast to really tackle the climate crisis and ensure that communities can be more resilient to extreme weather events. And this was bolstered by what I just mentioned, the Inflation Reduction Act. And so this is in reference to the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or BIL, is another acronym that you'll see. So in particular, this act provides $30 million each year to NOAA for marine debris assessment, prevention, mitigation, and removal for over 5 years. We expect the majority of these funds to be through national competitions. And last year, in fact, we were able to hold 2 priorities. A competition, one focusing on removal of large-scale debris using proven interception technologies, and then another focusing on removal from large to mid-scale debris. And so after a really highly competitive review process, I am proud to announce that on the marine debris program side, we had 14 recipients of awards for totaling $69 million in federal funding. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for California, our home? I pulled a few of these projects here that were recommended tied to NOAA Marine Debris Program in California, as well as my colleagues with National Sea Grant. So, you know, I wanted to pull out some of the California ones that I've been really excited. And the first one was with the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation at $15 million. And so with this project, we're removing large marine debris from 5 national marine sanctuaries and 2 tribal ancestral waters located in California, Washington, California, Texas, and Louisiana. So this is going to include for us the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, a national park, the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary, and the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, as well as partnership with California State Parks. Additionally, my program, the Marine Debris Program, will also be funding California State Parks at $250,000 to improve existing trash rooms at the border at the Tijuana River National Estuarine Research Reserve with Mexico, and reinforce trash capture devices. This project will also include an educational outreach video for sharing diverse perspectives and lessons learned. And this will be part of a tri-national approach, the US, Mexico, and the Kumeyaay Nation, the native people of that land. Additionally, Teresa mentioned this earlier, but there's amazing work that's also happening with National Sea Grant as far as collaborations happening with California Sea Grant and USC Sea Grant as well. This includes looking at commercially scalable end-of-life solutions for agricultural field plastic films used in watersheds, as well as clean streets, clean seas, innovating public works to intercept microplastics. So I'll share that these projects have just been recommended, and so there is no real specifics that I can share as project updates, but certainly more to come, especially for folks getting involved. And so I am about to put into the chat for BIL, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the funding opportunities. They divided it in both Southern California and Northern California. So I just wanted to make sure that you had both of those links. Next slide, please. So looking to the future, under that same funding that we recently had, I wanted to highlight 2 recommended projects that are at a national level that are pictured here. And so these also, although not directly funded from a California recipient, will have impacts for California. So this includes the Boat US Foundation, who is going to administer a national competition for removal of abandoned and derelict vessels, as well as create a national database. And the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, who will administer a nationally competitive grant program for removal and derelict fishing traps. A lot of this work will happen in the Chesapeake Bay area due to proximity, but they will have a national database also to standardize collection data. And so I will be certain to share any and all of these opportunities on the mailing list that we shared at the original start of this. Next slide. So if you're interested to really learn more about the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, BIL, you can check out this new BIL map. It was developed on Earth Day, and it's helpful to kind of just analyze what type of projects are being funded under the Biden-Harris administration for a climate-ready nation. Additionally, so other projects, I kind of went really specifically and biasedly into marine debris, but for your awareness, other activities of this huge amount include climate resilience through coastal restoration, habitat restoration, salmon recovery, kelp forests, as well as looking at a tribal scientific alliance. And this includes creeks, waterways, and all ecosystems, especially our ocean. So more on that later. Next slide, please. And before I head off, I kind of want to share some exciting news and kind of be to kind of get us prepared. So this is not specifically tied to the ocean litter and marine debris, but I wanted to put on your radar the NOAA Climate Resilient Regional Challenge, as there could be overlaps with what your work is in ocean litter or outside of that work if you work within an environmental space. And so approximately $500 million will be available for projects that build resilience of coastal communities to extreme weather. This includes hurricanes and storm surge, but other impacts such as climate change, sea level rise, and drought. Through this competition, which is in another division with NOAA, I'm equally excited to share that there is going to be no federal match. I know that's a huge barrier for a lot of communities. So that's one particular note, and that this grant program will be focusing on a holistic collaborative approach. And so the proposed projects will be able to address risk reduction, regional collaboration, equity, and enduring capacity building. And so this has not been released yet, but I've just been told to make sure that you are all aware that this will be happening. And then there's also preliminary information available on their website. And so with that, I'm going to put that in and just suggest that you become familiar with that, as I do expect that funding opportunity to be shared. Next slide, please. Only just a few more slides on my end. So kind of want to end us out here. Everything I mentioned on the federal opportunity sides, the marine debris program, we update our federal funding page. If you want to learn more information about future opportunities or just maybe projects that we funded in the past, I'll put those in right now. And lastly, one last slide for me. Before I hopped off, next slide, please. Thank you. All right. So before I hop off, I just kind of wanted to zoom out back to the international level and highlight some exciting conversations that have happened, notably with the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee. So you're going to hear some more updates from our amazing team with Surfrider in the policy section in just a few slides, but I just wanted to provide context that NOAA is not directly involved in these treaties, but we work really closely with the federal family from State Department, who represents the USA. So we provide the science and resources. And notably, very recently, from May 29th to June 2nd, representatives met around the world in Paris for the second session of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, or INC as it's called too, to develop an international legally binding instrument on plastic pollution. So over the course of this week, countries and stakeholders engaged on very diverse set of views and potential elements for what a future agreement might look like, what those objectives might look like, and how that interacts with cooperation and coordination. So the committee also requested that the chair develop an initial draft of the agreement for discussion that will be discussed at the next one, the INC, which will be held in Nairobi, Kenya, probably in mid to late November. With that, I highly suggest please checking out the United Nations Environment website or following our wonderful team members with Surfrider and others on this call that are monitoring and being a part of those conversations. So with that, I'll move on to the next slide and just want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak here today. Again, I know there's a lot in that chat, a lot of government links, but if you have a question or have an issue finding anything, please reach out to me. I'm honored to be a part of this as your regional coordinator, making sure that this information is making its way to your inbox. So with that, in the interest of time, I'm going to keep us moving right along. If we go to the next slide, I am equally excited to invite Jenny Stevenson from EPA Region 9 to speak and share this next opportunity.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Christy. And it really is exciting times with how much focus there is on marine debris, plastic pollution, climate change adaptation, and the funded opportunities as well. So for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to share with you all a quick highlight of the draft national strategy to prevent plastic pollution. This was released by EPA. Next slide, please. And a disclaimer before I get into it, just that the strategy presents potential actions by stakeholders and none of it is legally binding. So next slide. As you all are aware, we've generated a lot of plastic waste. EPA's estimates of plastic products in the municipal solid waste stream show that plastic waste is growing, and it has really grown particularly between 1980 and 2000. The plastic products that we find in our trash are primarily containers and packaging, which include single-use products, bags, wraps, and bottles. And in 2018, the last year for which EPA has data, only 9% of plastic collected through our municipal solid waste collection system was actually recycled. Next slide. And in addition to that growing amount of plastic waste, EPA or US per capita is the largest generator of plastic waste. So we have an individual plastic footprint higher than any other country of approximately 486 pounds per person. Next slide. So with that backdrop, in December 2020, the Save Our Seas Act 2.0 was signed into law in response to this growing demand from local, national, and international stakeholders over pollution prevention and marine debris. This part of the Act, Section 301, directed EPA in consultation with stakeholders to develop a strategy to improve post-consumer materials management and infrastructure to reduce plastic waste and other post-consumer materials in waterways and oceans. Next slide. And so we now have the strategy, the draft national strategy to prevent plastic pollution. You can see it's part of a series of
Jenny, I'm going to jump right in. I see that you froze on my side.
Same here.
Looks like we're having some trickiness with tech today. Jenny, I might encourage you to maybe take your video off and let's see if that helps with bandwidth. Let's see, it looks like she might be fully frozen as she is getting back in. I'll give it a few seconds. I wanted to share that I did receive some questions that I think were really good for everyone's awareness. I kind of went rattling along about funding opportunities, and I wanted to make sure that you're aware, especially with the Climate Ready Nation, that they are putting forth guidance materials on how to develop grants, grant proposals, and as well as the Marine Debris Program has a handful of resources available. So I'll make sure that that is available in our speaker notes for you all to access. And then just confirming for folks, if you weren't aware, this will be recorded and so shared on our public facing website. And with that, I'm going to see if I paused enough to see if Jenny is able to join us again. I'm going to keep pausing and just see if there's any other questions, and we'll see if this gives some time. All right, let's see. I see. Hi, Jenny. Welcome back.
Sorry about that. Don't know what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the goals. The goal of this strategy is to identify actions needed to eliminate the release of plastic waste from land-based sources to the environment by 2040. So there's a lot of different goals in here, organized, next slide, within three primary objectives, which are to reduce plastic production or reduce pollution during plastic production. The second one is to improve post-use materials management, prevent trash and micro nano products from entering waterways, and remove escape trash from the environment. So the next slide, the actions within this first, next slide. Yep. The actions within this first objective are focused on designing products for reuse and recycling, using less impactful materials, phasing out unnecessary products, and ensuring proper controls at plastic production facilities to reduce pollution throughout the life cycle of plastic products. And there's a variety of different actions also within these two broader action categories. Next slide. The second objective is to really improve post-use materials management. So while EPA's National Recycling Strategy identified actions to improve recycling, this further increases circularity to look to be achieved through other pathways, particularly through reuse and refill. So there's a host of actions identified under this objective as well. And lastly, the third objective, next slide, is to prevent trash and micro nanoplastics from entering waterways and remove escape trash from the environment. These are really necessary for long-term reductions of plastic and other waste in our waterways and oceans. So just a few last slides. The really important piece of this, next slide, is we'd want to hear from you. And while you see the deadline for comments is June 16th, I am happy to say that EPA has extended this deadline to Monday, July 31st. You won't yet see that date extension reflected on our website, but it is coming soon. So you do have until Monday, July 31st to comment. There are several kind of key areas in which EPA is seeking comment, but really we will take all of your review and comments, and you submit a comment through that Federal Register announcement. And after I get off this, I'll put those links in the chat. And so please take the time to write your comments, submit those comments through that regulations.gov site, noting the document there. And just lastly, the next steps is when the public comment period ends. We've already had a 45-day comment period, but, oh, sorry, next slide. You'll see that it is being extended to July 31st. Once that comment period ends and EPA has reviewed all the comments and taken those into account, we hope to have the final strategy published this fall, and then an implementation plan to follow along with it. And that is it. So please comment and I'll post those links in the chat. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, a lot happening on the federal side that I know we've been really excited and looking forward to announcing. So in the interest of time, I am going to keep us rolling along to our next section, next slide. And with that, Jenny, thank you so much. And I'll kick it off to my state better half, Caitlin.
Thanks, Christy, and thank you, Jenny. With that, we're excited to transition to two guest presentations, three from two agency partners on the state side. And so with that, I'm happy to introduce Zoe Heller, who's Deputy Director with CalRecycle within California. And without further ado, Zoe.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for the introduction, Caitlin. And Jenny, thanks for the great news that the comment period's been extended. That's very exciting. So good afternoon. Thank you so much for all of the work that you all are doing. It's been really exciting to hear about the progress being made across the board, the initiatives, the money. This has been a really inspiring last hour and 25 minutes. And so I'm here today to talk about Senate Bill 54. This is California's Plastic Pollution Reduction and Packaging Producer Responsibility Act. Real mouthful, but a very exciting mouthful. So what this is an extended producer responsibility program for single-use packaging and single-use foodware in California. Oh, whoops, I'm supposed to be telling you next slide. You're looking at this disclaimer. Next slide, please. And then one more slide. All right, there we go. So SB 54 aims to reduce plastic and other packaging pollution and increase recycling. But a really exciting part of the bill is the source reduction goals, which I'll get into a little bit more in the presentation. And it also requires producers to ensure that their products are recyclable or compostable. So besides establishing an EPR program, the law also establishes recycling rates for covered materials and pretty aggressive ones. I mentioned the source reduction and industry requirements to pay for environmental mitigation, which is another very exciting part of the bill. Or the law rather. Next slide, please. So the goals of SB 54 speak to a number of the things that we've been talking about today, the urgency to address plastics in our environment and to do it aggressively, and the importance of CalRecycle's statutory mission to implement the law in a way that supports our transition from a disposable to a fully circular economy. Next slide, please. So SB 54 tasks CalRecycle with implementation and enforcement of the statute. So there's a number of different covered materials regulated by this program, and they include single-use packaging and plastic single-use foodware. So SB 54 will impact businesses that manufacture, sell, distribute in the state, or import into the state products that use these regulated materials. Producers who create the covered materials play a strategic role in building this circular economy. They will have to form a producer responsibility organization, or PRO, which is a nonprofit organization that will develop a plan that's going to outline how the industry will meet these various goals. They're going to have to create less plastic and packaging, fund infrastructure development, and conduct robust educational campaigns statewide. And then the PRO is required to remit $5 billion over a 10-year period. So this will be $500 million per year beginning in 2027 to fund a California Plastic Pollution Mitigation Fund. Also per statute, we're going to be doing this very soon. A 16-member advisory board will be appointed by the department to provide recommendations to CalRecycle and the PRO on matters such as reducing the landfilling of covered materials, cost management, and other important components of the law. So the application period closed in April, and we're going to be selecting the advisory board by the 1st of next month. So we're required by July 1st. Next slide, please. All right, so you've heard a lot about extended producer responsibility today. I'm just going to give a very high level overview. CalRecycle has a lot of expertise in implementing EPR. We have a number of different programs specific to EPR, paint, mattress, PharmaSharps, to name a few. So under this EPR model, the responsibility is placed on producers to design, fund, and operate a statewide program that properly collects and manages the producer's products or materials. EPR places a shared responsibility for end-of-life management on producers, and EPR supports emerging markets that reflect the real environmental impact of a product or material. And generally, these programs aim to reduce litter and illegal dumping, make recycling more convenient, reduce waste management and cost for state and local governments, and encourage product innovation. This is a really important piece. Next slide, please. So more on the products that are in materials that are covered by SB 54. The first I mentioned is single-use packaging, or as defined in statute, packaging routinely recycled, disposed of, or discarded, and typically not refilled or reused by a producer. Note that this definition is material neutral, so a producer of single-use packaging of any material type, so this includes paper, paperboard, aluminum, etc., will need to comply. SB 54 also covers plastic single-use food serviceware. So these are things like plastic coated paper or paperboard, multi-layer flexible materials, plates, lids, cups, utensils, stirrers, and straws. And there are some exemptions for certain products. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is our timeline. And as you can see, it's pretty aggressive. Many deadlines run concurrently over the next decade. SB 54 implementation relies on CalRecycle to collect data and perform studies to inform early programmatic activities. And this is unique from our other EPR programs. So these different activities include a material characterization study, a statewide needs assessment, which we're working on now, and setting recycling rates for the covered material categories. These will occur at the same time as rulemaking and continue throughout program implementation. So we won't just be doing these things once. There's going to be updates, there's going to be ongoing material characterization studies, etc. All right, next slide, please. So by Jan 1, 24, producers of covered material are required to form and join the PRO. By 2025, extended polystyrene food serviceware is prohibited unless all expanded polystyrene reaches a 25% recycling rate. The target recycling rates for this type of material increases incrementally, capping at 65% by 2032. And I think many of you are very aware, but only about 1% of this material is currently recycled in California. So achieving that 25% recycling rate will be a lift. SB 54 also requires industry to incrementally reduce overall production of single-use packaging and plastic foodware compared to a baseline amount set by CalRecycle. So we're working on that source reduction baseline now. By 2027, industry must source reduce 10% by volume and 10% by plastic component. That increases incrementally, capping at 25% by 2032. And by 2028, plastic covered material must meet a 30% recycling rate, and that increases to 65% by 2032. And 100% of covered materials must be recyclable or compostable by 2032. So I like this because it sets both overall actual tangible, these things need to be recycled, but to be sold in the state, they actually have to be recyclable or compostable. So hitting on both sides of the recyclability, compostability equation. Next slide, please. While the Administrative Procedures Act governs the state's formal rulemaking process, at CalRecycle, we have a robust informal period, which we're in now, and this is prior to the formal rulemaking. This informal period ensures that our regulations are narrowly tailored to implement our statutory mandates, and the public has an ample chance, and also the interested parties have an ample chance to weigh in on our proposed regulations. Regulatory concept development is underway. Our formal rulemaking will begin early in 24, and regulations must be adopted by Jan 1, 25. So this is a pretty aggressive timeline for getting this done. And as mentioned, there's a number of things that CalRecycle is responsible for. We're in the process of developing an initial needs assessment of statewide collection and recycling infrastructure and identifying costs required to improve and build it out to meet the statutory goals. So this assessment will be used to inform the PRO's plan. And right now we're in early investigation phases as to how we're going to get this done. And we're going to be having some public facing workshops on the needs assessment. I'm going to be showing a slide, I'm sure, with how to sign up to get regular updates on our process. CalRecycle also must conduct our material characterization studies. The first one is due July 1st, 25, with updates in 28, 30, 32, and then every 4 years thereafter. We've done a number of waste characterizations / material characterizations over the years, and information on those can be found on our website. And once again, we're having those formal rulemaking workshops now. We're having them at a monthly cadence, and we're going to keep that up over the next several months on a number of the concepts that we're workshopping. Next slide, please. So to support this and other new circular economy reforms in California, CalRecycle recently launched the new circular economy division. That's the division that I'm the deputy over. We're going to be hosting a number of additional information sessions and informal rulemaking workshops, as mentioned. You can find out a lot more information about this on our website. Topics in the past have included the PRO plan, covered materials, source reduction, and responsible end markets. We're about to have a really exciting 2-day workshop, June 28th and 29th, where we're going to cover a lot of material, some really interesting topics, such as how we're determining recyclability and compostability. We're going to share a draft of the covered material category list and how we've gotten to that list. We're going to talk about requirements for local jurisdictions. These informal workshops will continue through September. Next slide, and then I'm going to wrap up here. So this is how you stay informed. Once again, oh, whoops, I think I missed a slide. Advance one more slide, please. All right, way to stay informed. Okay, so sign up for our listserv if you're interested. Send us questions at this packaging email address, and please attend our workshops. We welcome robust participation and questions and sharing information during this time to make our regulations the best possible to achieve the goals of 54. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Just want to reiterate how through Senate Bill 54 implementation, your agency really is at the forefront of this, very dynamic and kind of a challenging implementation and robust process. So just again, thank you for your time and for sharing this information. There's one question in the chat from Trina, which is regarding the scope of SB 54, and that does it include vapes and similar single-use products?
The scope of 54 is really focused in on packaging and as far as products, plastic food serviceware. But I do encourage you to follow some of our other processes right now. We have, we're just getting off the ground the regulatory process for a bill that was also signed into law last year, Senate Bill 1215, which is the battery embedded products law, which is going to, it's an expansion of our e-waste program to better manage battery embedded products. And as you can imagine, these are everything from greeting cards that sing to you to smartphones. So a lot of products will be covered in that, hopefully to collect more to reduce the challenges associated with managing those lithium-ion batteries and other batteries that are embedded in those products. Yes. Okay, I see another question that came in too. Sorry, I'm having a hard time. I have all these
from Amelia, is the compostable plastics for Senate Bill 54, the requirement going to address the greenwashing of compostable plastics?
I think the best way to answer that is compostable plastics are covered material. So they are going to have to demonstrate, as all covered material categories are going to have to demonstrate, those recyclability and compostability requirements. So, at our next workshop, we're going to be talking about what those are specific for compostability and recyclability. And the goal is really to ensure that these packages and products are getting composted or recycled. And so we're thinking a lot about the work we've done in Senate Bill 1335 to define recyclability and compostability. And also there's a lot of specifics in statute. So, and as well as implementation of Senate Bill 343, which is the truth in labeling law. So from all of these various pieces, we're looking to ensure that there's truth in labeling and that the products that are sold into California and packages that are sold into California are actually composted and recycled.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'll invite others to please enter questions in the chat. Zoe, also believe you may be available for any additional questions, but with that, we're going to transfer topics to the Department of Toxic Substance Control. Dicle Yarmadici, is providing 2 presentations. So a lot is happening in the world of DTSC, essentially. So you're going to hear an update on national efforts within the Interstate Technology and Regulatory Council, as well as state-specific updates related to microplastics, as well as specific sources of plastic pollution. And so with that, I'll turn to Dicle.
Thank you, Caitlin. Hello, everybody. I'm Dicle Yardımcı. I'm a senior engineer with California Department of Toxic Substances Control, also known as DTSC. I'm also a microplastics team member with Interstate Technology and Regulatory Council, ITRC. So for the ITRC microplastics update, I will be presenting on behalf of Valerie Helney, who is a coworker of mine, a senior toxicologist with DTSC and also ITRC team co-lead. Next slide, please. So ITRC is a state-led coalition that was established in 1994 with 1,500 members, including state, federal, and industry. It is funded through federal grants and industry membership fees. ITRC develops guidance documents, technical documents, fact sheets, and also provides trainings to educate the public and others, and on different research projects that can be found on ITRC's website. The link is included on the slide. Next slide, please. And today I will focus on sharing with you the updates on ITRC's microplastics team. This team has essentially two different phases, and the first phase already wrapped up with the publishing of a technical guidance document on microplastics. This is a web-based document that is published on ITRC's website February of this year. And the second phase of the team is now currently developing outreach toolkits on microplastics, which I will give you more details later in this presentation. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, ITRC microplastics team published a technical guidance document on its website on microplastics that includes 8 different sections, including sources of microplastics, sampling and analysis techniques of microplastics, human health and ecological effects on microplastics, as well as mitigation and abatement techniques. And there's also a section on the existing regulations compiled on microplastics. This document also includes case studies as well. Next slide, please. And an ITRC microplastics team offers trainings that highlights the key elements that are published as part of that technical document on the website. And these trainings are offered quarterly. Indeed, we just had another training session earlier today, and those trainings are recorded and they are posted on US EPA's CLUIN website, and the link included on the slide here. You can register for future trainings on here, and you can also find previous video recordings of the previous trainings on here as well. And the next web-based training on microplastics will be offered on November 6th of this year. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, the microplastics team is now currently developing outreach toolkit that has 3 different audiences, including general public. This also includes material targeted to K-12 students, scientific community, and decision makers. These are in the form of presentations, fact sheets, social media materials, and videos. And ITRC targets to release these outreach toolkits June of next year. Next slide, please. And there's still time to get involved with the ITRC microplastics team on the development of the outreach toolkit. If interested, please check out ITRC's team's website. And you can also find other projects and teams on 2023 ITRC team's website if interested, such as PPDs and PFASs and others. It is free to become a team member or team lead to the state or local representatives and the public. And I believe there's a fee for industry members. And next slide, please. And with that, I will now switch gears and move on to DTSC's Safer Consumer Products Program updates on microplastics and artificial turf. Next slide, please. And before I do that, let me provide you an overview of DTSC's Safer Consumer Products, also known as SCP program's regulatory framework. Our regulatory framework consists of 4 main steps. The first step is candidate chemicals list. This is a list of chemicals of concern that are listed by authoritative bodies because of their hazard traits or exposure potential to cause harm. And the second step is the priority products step. And these are consumer products that contain at least one candidate chemical and has the potential to cause harm. And the third step is alternatives analysis. Once the priority products are adopted via rulemaking, then manufacturers of those priority products must seek for safer alternatives to the candidate chemicals that is present in the priority products they make or sell in California. And the last step is regulatory response. This is a wide range of possible regulatory actions must be taken to protect the public health or the environment. And details of each step can also be found on our SCP website. Next slide, please. And DTSC is proposing to add microplastics to its candidate chemicals list. Next slide, please. And DTSC proposed a definition of microplastics as follows. Microplastics are defined as solid polymeric materials to which chemical additives and other substances may have been added, which are particles that have at least 3 dimensions that are less than 5,000 micrometers, which corresponds to less than 5 millimeters in size. And polymers that are derived in nature that have not been chemically modified other than by hydrolysis are excluded from this definition. Next slide, please. And DTSC's proposed definition includes both primary and secondary microplastics. And as a context, primary microplastics are the ones that are intentionally manufactured for specific products or applications, such as microbeads in personal care products and noodles. And secondary microplastics are the ones that originate from larger plastics that fragment into smaller pieces over time due to being exposed to the environmental conditions, such as UV light, wind, or water erosion. And some examples of secondary microplastics include degradation of plastic bottles and tire wear particles. Next slide, please. And there's potential to exposure to the microplastics because they are found in various environmental media, including surface waters, drinking water, air, and even they exist in the food that humans consume. They are mobile in the environment. They can accumulate and persist long time in the environment and can contain harmful chemical contaminants and additives that can move throughout the different environmental media as microplastics move in the environment. Because of their small size, they can be consumed by humans and other organisms. And some organisms may confuse microplastics with food because of their size, shape, and color, and feed on them, which will affect the toxicity endpoints. They can cause adverse health impacts on humans and other organisms that are exposed to microplastics. Next slide, please. And DTSC is proposing to add the microplastics to its candidate chemicals list because this will allow us to evaluate products that contain microplastics or may release microplastics to the environment. Next slide, please. And we are holding a public workshop on June 27th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on this topic. And if you'd like to register for this public workshop, please follow the registration link on the slide. And we are also seeking feedback on microplastics background document that's posted on our SCP website. And we will be holding a public comment period on this document that closes on July 27th. Next slide, please. And the other project I would like to provide you an update is our screening research on chemicals found in artificial turf. Next slide, please. And artificial turf is a synthetic surface used as an alternative to natural grass. It has several different applications, including outdoor landscaping, indoor design, and playgrounds. Next slide, please. And there's exposure potential to the chemicals found in artificial turf. Humans can be exposed to those chemicals during the use of the products that are made of artificial turf. It also can have environmental impacts to aquatic organisms and plants. And because of the materials made of crumb rubber, artificial turf can also be a source of microplastics. Next slide, please. And one of the chemicals can be present in artificial turf is perfluoroalkyl substances, also known as PFASs. There's a proposed bill, AB 1423, on this. If it gets adopted by January of 2024, it will require manufacturers of artificial turf to notify the entity whether their product contains regulated PFAS. And this bill defines regulated PFAS as either intentionally added PFAS to the product, or the amount of PFAS measured exceeds 1 ppm in the total organic fluorine. This bill will also prohibit any state department, private or public school from installing artificial turf that contains regulated PFAS. And by January of 2025, it will prohibit manufacturing, distribution, and sale of any covered surface that contains regulated PFAS, including artificial turf. Next slide, please. And currently, DTSC is drafting a public background document to summarize our key findings on chemicals in artificial turf. We plan to release this background document along with the announcement of a public workshop that's planned end of this year. We are looking for speakers and panelists. If interested, please contact us if you would like to attend our public workshop on artificial turf as a speaker or as a panelist. And with that, I will now introduce our next speaker, Kelly Grant, Senior Environmental Scientist with DTSC, to give you project updates on DTSC's updates on PPDs. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Deechley. I appreciate it. So I'm going to talk about this project on 6-PPD quinone. Next slide, please. So for decades, scientists in the Washington area watched helplessly as coho salmon returned to their streams to spawn, but instead died before spawning. And you can see in the photo that female died full of eggs. And fortunately, in 2020, Tian et al. Identified 6-PPD quinone as the toxic agent that was killing the coho salmon. And it turns out that 6-PPD quinone comes from tires. It's comes from 6-PPD in tires, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But because of the vast number of tires on the road and their ability to shed microplastics everywhere, we have great concern for the ubiquity of 6-PPD and 6-PPD quinone in our environment. And sure enough, we've found levels of 6-PPD quinone in roadway runoff and streams that can kill 50% of the coho salmon. So it's at levels of concern. And subsequent to that, researchers have also found that it's toxic to brook trout, rainbow trout, and steelhead, which are the same species, and to a lesser extent, Chinook salmon. Now, this is also an important justice issue for many Native American nations, particularly on the West Coast, where salmon have a really critical role in diet and culture. Next slide, please. So 6-PPD provides an anti-degradant function in rubber and tires, and you can see in the images here that 6-PPD is really important to prevent the cracking of rubber. And for some reason, my my images didn't quite come out right. But what 6-PPD does is it specifically interacts with oxygen and ozone to produce 6-PPD quinone, which is shown here. Next slide, please. Nope, sorry. Next slide. So SCP, or Safer Consumer Products, is the first agency to regulate 6-PPD in tires. Our priority product listing is expected to go into effect on October 1st. And then that means that the manufacturers will provide that preliminary alternatives analysis, which is a broad screening of potential alternatives, by March 2024. Now,
that could include tires that produce fewer tire wear particles, which would overall reduce the amount of 6-ppd quinone getting into the environment. And then after that, in October 2025, the final alternatives analysis would be due, where the manufacturers actually select an alternative to 6-ppd to use in tires. Next slide, please. So because of this huge concern for 6-ppd, we've decided to propose adding PPD derivatives to the candidate chemical list. PPD, or paraphenylene diamine, is shown in the image on the right. And really, our goal for adding these to the candidate chemical list is to make sure none of these end up as regrettable substitutes to 6-ppd. So hopefully, if they're on the candidate chemical list, they will get extra scrutiny. And it also provides us more options in regulatory response, which is that fourth stage in the SEP process that Dietzle mentioned. So to identify or to define this class, we identified chemicals that were related based on their chemical structure, and we did detect a concern for acute aquatic toxicity and skin sensitization. Next slide. So we're planning to release a technical document that provides information about our definition of PPD derivatives and the analysis on hazard traits. And we plan to release that in July. Then we'll have a workshop planned for August, where public comment will be encouraged on this PPD class. Next slide, please. So Safer Consumer Products is hiring. We have environmental scientist positions open. So we encourage folks to apply or share the application. And then we're going to have positions coming up for an engineer and toxicologists. Next slide. So Dietzle was kind enough to put together all our contact information. So please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have further questions on any of the projects that we discussed. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Dietzle. It's really exciting to see everything that's on your program's plate, especially this summer. There's one question and one comment in the chat. One regarding whether there's any research on how oysters benefit from the removal of PFAS or 6-ppd quinone or microplastics from estuaries. So this is specific to oysters and estuaries. And of course, answers may be responded to, as a follow-up to this webinar as well.
Sure. Unfortunately, there is very little information about the toxicity of 6-ppd and 6-ppd quinone to other animals besides salmonids. So I would say we don't know about 6-ppd. In terms of PFAS, I am not sure about that. I don't know, Dietzle, I don't know if you're a PFAS expert on that.
I'm not quite sure about the PFAS, but I would assume so some of these aquatic organisms, they will confuse microplastics depending on the size, shape, and color, and then selectively feed on microplastics because they simply confuse it with food. Then depending on the different characteristics of the microplastics, it can have different adverse impacts on the organism. And in terms of looking up some of that information, there's a Tomex app, which we didn't share with you today, but I will look for a link that has a lot of, this is a live database that compiles information on microplastics specifically. And there's a ton of data regarding to aquatic organisms that you can find. I'm not sure about the PFAS portion though.
And excuse me, I'll also rephrase the question in that I'm rereading, and I said, how might oysters benefit from the removal? But now rereading it seems, how might oysters benefit the removal of these compounds? And so it does seem to be a potential suggestion for a solution as well.
I guess we
depending on
don't
how
want
it's
to eat them if they're used for filter.
Thank you. And then Vicky, just want to say thank you, Kelly. This isn't a long timeline. 2025 is right around the corner. So that provides some hope. So thank you both for your presentation. Catherine asked whether the Tomex database may be dropped into the chat. So we'll work on getting that dropped into the chat. And for the keeping an eye on time, with that, we'll encourage folks to continue to provide questions in the chat. And again, thank you, Kelly and Deechley, for your time. This was wonderful.
Thanks.
And without further ado, Christy will transition on to policy updates.
Thank you, Caitlin. Next slide. And thank you all. Those are really exciting updates and just so impressed of what's happening across the state. So now we're now expect this last session to really look at policy and legislation updates at various levels. So we'll first hear from Surfrider Foundation, Jennifer Savage on the national policy side. Then we'll hear from California Product Stewardship Council's Nate Pelzar, who'll look at our state and local updates. So with that, Jennifer, if you are able to unmute yourself. All right, I see you, and the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much, Christy. Yeah, I'll just give a quick overview of things that are happening at the federal level, as well as a little bit of a report from the recent Global Plastics Treaty negotiations. So if I could have the next slide. All right, so there's a number of pieces of legislation that were introduced over the last few years, and they are all expected to be reintroduced this session. We were hoping that they would be reintroduced by now, but unfortunately there has been some delay, but we do expect all of them to come up again. And so 3 of the ones that I highlighted are the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. I think most people have heard of it by now, but anyway, it's a big comprehensive bill, as you can see on the slide, that incorporates all these different things. And it is sort of like the big dream legislation that we would love to see passed. But there's also a lot of standalone elements, such as the Protecting Communities from Plastics Act, which really focuses on the environmental justice part. And there's the Plastic Pellet Free Waters Act. And as you can see, that would prevent the discharge of plastic pellets into the environment. So there's a number of smaller bills that could make a big difference if they were to get passed. And then coming up on Thursday, there is a Senate EPW hearing, and that is on the impacts of plastic production and disposal on environmental justice communities. So a lot happening this week. I'm actually in Washington, D.C. right now as part of the Break Free from Plastic Pollution group to talk about all this legislation to Congress members this week. So looking forward to that, and probably we'll have more to report at the end of the week. If I could have the next slide. And then on the administrative side, last year, Secretary Haaland announced that the Department of Interior was directing all of its agencies and bureaus to phase out single-use plastics from their offices, from public lands that are managed under the Department of Interior. And every bureau and every agency, so like Bureau of Land Management, National Parks, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they all are required to submit these plans to the Department of the Interior about how they are going to phase out using single-use plastics from their particular area of management. And so we are looking forward to seeing an announcement from the Department of Interior with more detail on what those plans are going to look like. We anticipate them to be formally adopted any moment now, frankly. There's also a draft national strategy, as you heard, to prevent plastic pollution. And we were happy to see that the opportunity to comment was extended. So I won't go over that one since that already has been discussed on this call. The General Service Administration is for those who are unfamiliar with GSA, General Services Administration, they are essentially the agency that does purchasing for the federal government. And so they are working on revamping their rules about how they buy things to reduce unnecessary single-use plastic. So there's a real big potential just if they change the way that they buy things to make a really big difference on reducing plastic pollution, plastic usage within the federal government. Next slide, please. Thanks. And then on a global level, I just attended, I forgot what, 2 weeks ago, it's been flying by, the second meeting of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, which is more casually known as INC. And they are the committee that is charged within United Nations of coming up with this global plastics treaty. So if anyone is unfamiliar, the UN member states last year said that they were, collectively going to come up with a global plastics treaty. So this would be similar to things that they have done with the Paris climate negotiations, Montreal with the ozone negotiations that came up there. And there's a real potential to make a global difference. As we all know, global plastic pollution is a global problem. And so member states came together in Paris at UNESCO to start talking about their ideas for the treaty. There was it was 5 days worth of meetings, and there was a lot of drama between nations for several days just on procedural stuff, but they actually got to the point where they submitted ideas to go along with the goals that had been set. And so for the next meeting of INC, the chair will have prepared what they call a zero draft, and that is essentially a brainstorming document from which a next draft will come up. And so hopefully by the time the final negotiating meeting happens in November 2024, there will be a strong binding global plastics treaty that will be adopted by United Nations member states. And in the US, that means it would also have to be ratified by the Senate. So there's still quite a ways to go as far as what it will actually look like. But that's a quick overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate you and the Surfrider team for being a part of these from the get-go of this. In the interest of time, if you have any questions, I'm going to kindly ask if you can use the chat, and Jennifer, if you maybe can stick around and see if there are any questions as we get ready for the last but not least speaker of the day. Nate, thank you for hanging around here. We're excited to have you and appreciate you joining. So floor is yours.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks to everyone for sticking around and hearing what we have to say. So again, Nate Pelzer from the California Product Stewardship Council. Next slide, please. Providing the local and state legislative update. So I'm going to fly through a couple of these slides. It's related to the structure of CPSC. This is our board. These are our board executives. Next slide, please. As you can see, we've got a really good representation of private and public and NGOs. Next slide, please. This is the CPSC staff. This is me and all of my wonderful team members. We're a very small but mighty team, and very happy to work with these folks. Next slide, please. We get all of our funding, a large portion of our funding from associates, including cities, counties, districts, and JPAs. This is really important and worth mentioning because we regularly meet with these folks and talk about the issues that are at the tip of their tongue, the most trend-setting issues. And this helps guide our legislative schedule and calendar internally within CPSC, and helps us advocate and really, at the forefront of these issues as they pop up across the state. And just because of California's size and stature in the US, it's important to present these things. And when we pass laws and pass ordinances, they typically make a wave nationally. So it's important for us to continue to have these conversations and gather this information from our funders. Next slide, please. Okay, sponsors, same thing with these folks as well. These are the folks that are selling the products and services to the jurisdictions and to the consumers. And it's important for us to gather information from them too. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the meat of the presentation. This is where I talk about local policy and state policy. I'll start off with this one first. This is an ordinance, and we're extremely proud of this one. This one passed on May 1st in 2023 down in Los Angeles County. This is a really big one just because of the millions of people that live in LA County. It's a ban on single-use plastics. It went into effect. It impacts restaurants with permanent locations in the unincorporated areas. That may not sound like a lot, but that's actually a really big deal. And once a jurisdiction of this size with this population passes something like this, it usually falls like dominoes across the state. And then we help other jurisdictions, large and small, draft their own version. We try to make it a little bit different depending what the product is, just to keep the manufacturers on their toes. But we're really, really proud of Los Angeles County. Happy to be there with them every step of the way to the extent that we're needed to help them pass ordinances just like this. And we do this across the state of California. You might remember back in 2018, we did the same thing in the years leading up to 2018, specific to farm and sharps. We passed a lot of ordinances across the state, and it really caught manufacturers' attention, and it brought them to the table at a statewide level. And that's the mechanism that we still continue to pull, the lever that we pull across the state to get manufacturers to the table to force policies into effect that limit source reduction and positively impact our waterways and our coasts. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide, the next, really a lot of information in a very short period of time, and I can't do this without my notes. So give me a second here to pull up my notes. What I'll do is I'll share with you first the CPSC sponsored bills. These are the ones that we hire our small team of lobbyists to help us push forward with, and the ones that we actively move on as well. This particular session, we've got two sponsored bills. It's SB 560 from Senator Laird. That one has to do with solid waste gas cylinders. And the bill basically helps establish statewide a stewardship program for gas cylinder products. And, some of you might be familiar with stuff we've done in the past. In fact, last session, we tried to push a ban on the 1 pound propane cylinders. That got through the House, got through the Senate. The Assembly and the Senate got all the way to the governor's desk, and he vetoed that bill, even though it passed by huge margins. And the reason why is because he said, come back with an extended producer responsibility structured bill on the similar product. So that's what we did. And that's why we have SB 560 this session, likely to be a 2-year bill. We're also pushing really hard on SB 707 from Senator Newman that establishes a textiles EPR program. With these two different bills, these two different product types, we recognize that these materials, specifically textiles and cylinders, they really cost waste management programs, local jurisdictions, local taxpayers, ratepayers, a lot of money. And it costs them a lot of money to properly dispose of these products or ship them out of the US or ship them across the US or recycle them. So CPSC, what we do is we make up for it by prioritizing these types of bills, writing these bills, working with assembly members and senators to get these things passed. It's also worth noting that CPSC is providing technical assistance to Assemblymember Ward on his 2 solar panel bills. That's AB 2 and AB 1238, if I remember correctly, which we hope will provide funded solutions for solar panel end-of-life management. That means that it should be less expensive for your communities to properly process and dispose of unwanted solar panels. That's a really good thing. So that being said, I'll jump into the other bills. If you could go back one slide to the AB bills, I'll run through some of these. I'm not going to go through all of them because I know that we've been throwing a lot of information at you in a very short period of time. So hang tight. Let's see here, scrolling down. AB 3 from Zebra, that has to do with offshore wind energy. This is a really big deal because it certainly impacts our coasts. That was last amended in April, the end of April. It passed from Assembly floor, referred to Senate Comms, and it'll be heard on 6/20, which is a week. AB 30, that's from Assemblymember Ward, atmospheric rivers, research mitigation, climate forecasting program. This bill requires one of California's agencies or departments to research, develop, and implement new observations, prediction models, novel forecast methods, et cetera, to basically write reports and to gather this information so that we can pass more sound policy. So this flew through Assembly 76-0, which is almost unheard of, and it was referred to Senate Comms. Senate Committee on Natural Resources. That's going to be heard on 6/22. AB 45 from Horvath, that has to do with coastal resources, coastal development permits, and blue carbon demonstration projects. We're excited about this one because it authorizes the commission to authorize blue carbon demonstration projects. I'm sure a lot of you know what this is. It really has to do with our waterways. This is of huge importance. And the whole goal here is to demonstrate and quantify the carbon sequestration potential of these projects, which again will have a positive impact, hopefully, on the state's natural resources. So this one was just ordered to the Senate at the very end of last month. Next is AB 234 from Barbara Kahan. This one has to do with microparticles. The bill would prohibit a synthetic polymer microparticle from being placed on the market in the state as a substance on its own, or where the synthetic polymer microparticle is present to confer a sought-after characteristic. So basically means that they can still be sold, but the percentage by weight of the product is extremely small, 0.01% by weight. So that's a huge improvement from what we currently have. As you might know, we've got a lot of polymer microparticles currently being sold in products, and that includes cosmetics. Folks, these are things that go on your skin, you absorb them. It's extremely important we remove these from the system. Again, that's AB 234. That has yet to be heard by the Committee of Natural Resources. So on the next one, AB 246. This one has to do with menstrual products and PFAS, and that's why I mentioned this one specifically. This one prohibits any person from manufacturing, distributing, selling, or offering for sale in the state any menstrual product that contains PFAS. So it blows my mind that we're still offering these products in the state of California, even in the US, when they knowingly contain PFAS. So this bill is extremely important. Again, AB 246. This will be heard on 621 in Senate EQ. AB 363. And when I mentioned that the AB bills are being heard on the Senate side, that means they've already made it through the Assembly and they're quickly moving through the various committees. So just a quick point of order. AB 363, pesticides. This one has to do with non-agricultural use of certain pesticides, and I'll try to paraphrase this as best as I can because it's very technical. This one adopts control measures for that use that are necessary to protect pollinating insects. So long story short, the goal is to protect the pollinating insects for obvious reasons and to remove use of certain pesticides that contain certain chemicals. This one also did quite well on the Assembly side, and it looks like it's referred to suspense, which isn't a good sign, but we'll wait and see exactly how that plays out. AB 496, this is cosmetic safety again. We've got a lot of these because, again, they're products that we consume, products that make their way through our body and then into our wastewater, which then goes to our wastewater outflows, local water streams, watersheds, and then eventually the waterways and coasts. So this bill would, starting in 2027, expand the prohibition by adding specific banned chemicals to the list of already banned chemicals. Again, this is for cosmetic safety. This one was ordered for a third reading in the Senate side. So this one is moving very swiftly, and I expect it to pass. AB 727 from Assemblymember Weber. Product safety, cleaning products. This bill would prohibit a person from manufacturing, selling, delivering, distributing, holding, or offering for sale in the state a cleaning product that contains regulated PFAS. So we're seeing just a huge quantity of PFAS-related bills because the scientific community is finally doing a good job at relaying to the public the toxicity involved and how our bodies work as bioaccumulating vessels for these types of things and cause problems. So again, that's AB 727. This one was referred to Senate EQ, which is great news. That'll be heard on 621. 863 from Aguiar Curry, carpet recycling. This one builds on existing law that authorizes the department to administratively impose civil penalties. So if by chance the carpet stewardship organization is in violation of one of those laws, this gives the state the ability to charge fines, financially material fines, $5,000 per day, $10,000 per day, depending on the violation severity or whether or not we can prove that it's intentional or knowing or negligent. So this is a really big step in the right direction. And this one was referred to Senate EQ, and the hearing date has yet to be made public. AB 891 from Assemblymember Irwin. This one has to do with beverage container recycling. This is another really popular one. Specifically, beverage containers that are made out of non-petroleum material. So this bill would require the department to charge a fee to cover its reasonable costs of implementing these types of provisions. So basically allows fees to be applied to specific beverage containers if the quantity of material that are based on petroleum exceeds 50%. So again, a little bit more technical than most of our bills, but extremely important because we're trying to lower the quantity of petroleum-based plastic in the marketplace. This one is held in the Committee on Appropriations, which is not a good sign. So we'll watch that one closely and see what happens. AB 895, Solid Waste Management, from Assemblymember Chen. This bill would require the department to analyze the progress that the waste sector, state government, and local governments have made in achieving organic waste reduction goals for 2020 and 2025 every 5 years. This one is waiting with the Committee on Natural Resources. Christy, how am I doing on time?
Always great. We might have to wrap up a little bit, and I feel for you, Nate, because there's such great information here that I don't want to stop you. But if there's maybe one or two you want to highlight before we jump off.
Yeah, let me just jump down to a couple of the really important Senate bills that we're watching. SB 378 from Senator Gonzalez, that's state parks, state beaches, expanded polystyrene food container and cooler ban. This bill basically makes it an infraction punishable by a fine for folks that bring an expanded polystyrene container to a beach. This is a big step forward. You know, we got a lot of stores and food vendors near beaches and at beaches that are handing these things out like candy. They basically get blown away, blown into our waters. This is a big deal. Refer to the Committee on Natural Resources. And then my last but not least, SB 552 from Senator Newman. We're a huge fan of Newman because of his sponsoring of SB 707, the textile bill. This one is solid waste, single-use foodware accessory, and single-use food packaging. This bill would basically prohibit a restaurant from providing a dine-in customer with any single-use foodware accessory or single-use food packaging. These are littered like crazy, almost as bad as cigarette butts, and we're just trying to get these out of the system. So this one was referred to one of the committees and currently on pause. We're watching these and many, many more, try to focus this list to add value for your area of expertise and your focus. And if anybody has any questions on these bills, more than happy to answer them. I'll put my email in the chat and look forward to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Nate. And I'm going to confer with you. Yeah, if there's anyone who has questions, please add them in the chat. Thank you so much, Nate and Jennifer, for providing such great information. I found it incredibly informative. And I should have mentioned at the top of the hour, as representing the federal government and a state agency, that me nor Caitlin are endorsing anything in particular, though we are very supportive of the information sharing. So I forgot to mention it at the top of the hour, but Nate, I just want to thank you. And I'm going to put a plug that every 6 months, Nate and his wonderful CPSC team leads conversations for our goal groups, going through these in further detail. And I always find it really useful. So that's a plug for joining us in future ones. And so I just want to thank you, Nate, and thank you, Jennifer. And again, if there's any questions, please use that chat for them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, with that, we're going to keep moving along. So I am going to have us go to a few different slides. To go to the wrap up slide, please. Perfect. All right. Well, with that, I just want to thank everybody. That was such a wonderful wealth of information with so many diverse topics. Caitlin and I, before we hopped off, just really kind of wanted to touch base and kind of share where we're at and where we hope to be going short and long term. And so if you move to the next slide, we just have a few slides here, starting us off with reminders. We mentioned at the top of the hour that we did have a May progress report. I will share again that we do accept updates through this mechanism, the form that Caitlin will share if you have any. And then I just mentioned it, but we do also have our next work group, goal group meetings in August, and that will be shared on our Ocean Litter Strategy platform, as well as our November webinar with dates forthcoming. But just letting you know that this year there's quite a number of different opportunities for you still to engage, learn, and hopefully find value out of this. Next slide. So with this slide, I just kind of wanted, thank you, Caitlin. Again, if you have any updates you want to share that you didn't have time to, please, by all means, we encourage any and all. With that, kind of looking to the moving forward, our litter strategy planning team is really, hard at work trying to figure out how we, close down this this project and continue to implement actions through its end through 2024. And as you can see by this timeline, we've made really great strides in the lifetime of it, but we still have a lot of work we can do and we can get done. And so Caitlin and I with OPC are beginning to really plan the facilitation process of this closeout, brainstorm ideas of what the future will have, incorporating new funding opportunities such as those discussed by Caitlin and Sea Grant. And then in 2024, we also look to advancing and improving our engagement with sectors and perspectives. Again, going back to that project. And so, there's a lot to come here. We look forward to really bringing with the community together from, potentially hosting an ocean litter strategy symposium at the end of the plan to evaluate the progress made, identifying barriers, and really shaping what life after the 2024 plan ends. So a lot more coming there, but just wanted to give a quick heads up that more will be coming, and we really value your feedback as well as your dedication to this issue. With that, next slide. Caitlin and I just want to say thank you to our speakers, thank you to our work group leads, thank you to partners, and thank you for all attending today. I know we had such an amazing turnout, and just wanted to thank you for your participation here today. Caitlin, before I jump off, I wanted to offer you the opportunity to speak as well. Oh, I think you might be muted somehow. We made it this far in the webinar. She will add it into the chat, but I will just be guessing that Caitlin also shares her gratitude and her appreciation. Just really, this was incredibly informative, and I know I learned a lot. Next slide. As you see, here are some of the resources. We'll be sure to add all the links that we avalanched with you all into the chat, making sure this is part of the presentation and making this publicly available. And with that, our last slide, we just want to, echo that we are here to help. And if it's tied to the ocean litter strategy, if it's tied to ocean litter, please reach out to us. We are available at all times, really, just really to support. And with that, we have the ultimate slide before I close us out today, and just welcoming and hoping to see most of you, if not all, at our next engagements. And with that, I will conclude our meeting notes. So I see some really nice words of encouragement and engagement in the chat, and just appreciate you all so much on this. So with that, I hope everyone has a lovely rest of the day. I see Caitlin was able to add into the chat, so we'll have to figure out that tech part, but just thank you all, and looking forward to seeing you next.
Bye, Christy.